Louise Regan. Thanks for joining us today.
You are welcome. It's very good to be here.
Thank you. Louise, as you follow up the latest news, Kurdish leader Mr. Abdullah Ocalan has been visited by the Dem party representatives, and also on the first meeting on 27th February was very clear. The Öcalan's message was underlining that if the ground is prepared, I have enough power to bring conflict to the peaceful negotiations table. And with that, we understand that clearly Mr. Öcalan is working on the peaceful negotiations right now. How do you evaluate this message, first of all, how important it is? And also, Mr. Öcalan has proven once again after 25 years that he is on the peace side, he's seeking for peace. How do you like to comment on that, first of all?
Yes, I think given the amount of time that he has been held in solitary confinement and the situation on the ground for him, I think it's a very powerful message. I think we know that obviously within the Kurdish community and Turkish community there, he is very well respected in terms of his views and opinions. But obviously that is also there is global respect for his writings, for his work, for his beliefs, really, his progressive attitudes. And I think it is very clear that any peace negotiations will need him to be part of that, to be leading within that, and to ensure that those talks, those negotiations are successful, that they do bring peace to the region and to the communities there. But also that, I think it's hard to see that happening while ever he remains in prison and isolated from the community.
Thank you. Secondly, Mr. Öcalan and the PKK now expect a move from Turkey in a positive way, a step forward. So, what is your call to Turkey, and what is your message for Öcalan's and his workspace to be prepared so he can freely participate in the peace process, as you just underlined as well?
I think we have repeatedly said in the global solidarity movement that it is essential that he be released, that he is allowed to take part in any democratic processes. And I think given this latest statement, it is probably more essential than ever, really, that now that happens as a matter of urgency, to allow productive peace talks and to finally bring peace to that region and to the people of that region.
Thank you, dear Luis. Another significant development was that the PKK's announcement about their dissolution. So, after the following the call of Kurdish leader Öcalan, the PKK announced its decision to dissolve, with historic decision that was for the Kurds as well. So, different circles are now emphasizing that the Turkish state should take a positive and confidence building steps that will strengthen the peace process. What would you like to say about this, and what is your call and message to Turkish state to push the peace more?
Well, I think it's very similar to what I've already covered, really. I think it is essential that Turkey do engage positively with the peace process, but also that they allow him to be part of that, because without that, I just don't see that there will be progress. I think the announcements over the past couple of months, particularly, the decision to stop, any sort of armed conflict or and so on, is an important step. And I think that Turkish government should take that as an important part of the process, and should therefore very positively engage with it, should ensure that all parties have the possibility to engage in a positive way. Um, and without that, as I say, I just don't see that that we will make progress.
Thank you. Also, you follow the EU policies as well. So, would like to ask you that what is the position of the European Union for peaceful solution to the Kurdish-Turkish issue? And in this context, do you think the EU has a stance supporting the peace? Do you think the EU's position is good enough to support the peace in the Turkish-Kurdish conflict?
I mean, I think the EU has a role to play, in all regions across Europe, but also globally in terms of calling for peace. As ever, I think there are times when there are very good words that are said, and people within the leadership within the EU will talk about the need for peace, will talk about the need for justice. But I think, as we are seeing, not just in Turkey, but in other parts of the world, that that doesn't always deliver actions. And actually, sometimes it is important that the European community takes action against any state that is not following international law, that is not engaging in positive peace processes, that does not, follow international and humanitarian law. So I think there have been, comments and support for peace and for justice, but whether they are doing enough currently to ensure that that is successful, I think remains to be seen.
Thank you. Another issue is about the UK. UK has an important role and impact on the Middle East, as you know. And just to underline, just to remind also, the UK is one of the biggest arms trader to Turkey. The BAE Systems as a company is one of the biggest company that works with the UK closely. So what role is played by the UK and Turkey's political system in the conflict on Middle East, as well as Kurdish question, and in UK as well as in Europe as well, the Kurdish diaspora are facing the um, some criminalization policies from the Western governments as well. But particularly the UK's role, what is it, do you think, in that conflict? Very shortly.
Well, I think the UK has always worked very closely with Turkey and the leadership there. Obviously, the UK is a provider of arms, not just there, but as you've already indicated, in the wider region. And many of us have been calling for an ending of arms sales, particularly obviously at the moment to Israel with the assault on Gaza. But as you may well be aware as well, our government has indicated that they are going to increase defence spending. Some of that will obviously be on arms. Many of us in the solidarity movements and trade unions here in the UK do not think that that should be happening. We do not think investing in arms brings about a more peaceful world. In fact, it tends to create more conflict and more violence. We think money should be invested into welfare, into caring for people, but also alongside the fact that they have announced increasements in arms and defence spending, they are also cutting aid budgets. So again, that will have a massive impact on people from any region or any part of the world who are living in conflict areas, who are facing oppression, who rely on those aid support. Because alongside, I mean, the US obviously made massive cuts to theirs, who provided 40% of the global aid funding. But if our government as well, who give a fairly significant amount to aid support, cut that as well, this is going to have a further difficulty across the globe and increase people's lack of safety, lack of healthcare, lack of food, and so on. So I think there are real concerns really about our government's role, not only historically but currently, in terms of engagement with some of these countries that are particularly violent or oppressive of the people that live there.
Thank you, dear Louise. Is there anything I didn't ask, anything you would like to add on in this frame, especially if you have any message for Kurdish leader Mr. Abdullah Ocalan? Please have your last words.
I mean, obviously, our message from here in the UK and the solidarity movement and the trade union movement is, to send our absolute solidarity to him. I find it hard that we have to keep speaking out about this and keep calling for his release after this huge length of time. But I think my final message to him is we will continue to fight for justice. We will continue to campaign and raise awareness and call for his release. And I think that it is absolutely essential that he is part of any peace process discussions to finally bring peace and justice for the people there.
Thank you very much, Louise Regan. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for your valuable comments.